What up, world? How y'all doing this awesome day? This is actually it's the first day, 2026, um, January the 1st. So I'm excited about this new year. Um, I love being on this platform and sharing information with everybody that watches these videos about life itself and definitely me talking about uh, my curriculum, Project Egress, which is I love talking about it being used on different platforms. I've been using it for almost 20 years now. So it definitely means something to me. It's been instrumental in this work that I'm doing, and helping me establish myself in this field, being able to do this work. So I'm always be excited about pushing it. So so today's session um, from the curriculum, which is week 4, is called traumatic experiences, right? So if you go in the curriculum, uh, you can see this is actually uh, week 4. Then you have the exercises, which we're going to go through some of this stuff today. And then there's always, with each session, there's a handout or a worksheet that covers the information that was covered in the curriculum, right? And branding. But anyway, so let's get into it, right? So I'm quite sure most of us have experienced some type of trauma during our lifetime. And for a lot of people it has hindered them or been a problem with them making progress as they transition into adulthood. Um, Going through their teenage years into adulthood, where there have been complications with them in relationships, in the workplace, doing business, or even interacting with family. Because when you talk about trauma, it goes so deep, man. It's so deep, and then it's easily to be triggered by things you've experienced in your past, right? So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna share my screen and we're gonna get to it. We're gonna get to the meat today of what um, trauma is, or what we're gonna talk about traumatic experiences. Okay, so when we look at trauma or what people call traumatic experiences, traumatic experiences are painful, psychological, or physical injury one receives from shocking incidents in their life. It can be one incident or it can be a multitude of incidents that have altered how people think, how people feel, and it can often paralyze people too, to whereas they can't function, they struggle with functioning in modern day society, right? So when we talk about that, so let's get into what some examples of traumatic experiences are, the different types of traumatic experiences, right? So one would be child abuse, whether that's emotional, physical, mental, uh, or sexual. Um, I can speak from my own personal experience saying that as a child, I experienced uh, verbal abuse and some physical abuse and mental abuse. You know, when you're being told as a child that you ain't gonna be nothing like you're gonna be like your daddy, he ain't nothing, different things like that. It can have effects on you and your confidence as a child growing up. And then there's also the thing of being molested or being sexually abused as a child. One of the biggest things that's going on in the world today, or particularly in our country, is human trafficking with children. So that's something to consider. Then there's also the lack of love and nurturing coming from a household from your parents. So for me, uh, I I didn't meet my father until I was 13, and I didn't see him again until I was 31 in prison. We have a great relationship today, but his absence uh, played a role in I think how I was raised. Uh, um, and then also, not receiving that, me not receive, feeling not receiving from my mother. Losing someone you love to abandonment, incarceration, or death. It goes back to what I just said about having abandonment issues as a child. I experienced abandonment issues from my father and my mother. Being that we bounced from spot to spot, moved from numerous locations. Um, Having learning disabilities and working with in my years of working with young people, I noticed that the class clowns, some will have learning disabilities. That's why they try to redirect the attention from themselves in classrooms, acting out or getting put out of the class or trying to not have the focus on them having to answer questions in class. Relocating. I've seen situations where people have come from two-parent households and have to downsize and move into a neighborhood where it's a lot going on, and those children are used to that, and so it's shocking for them. They have to make new friends, leave family members behind. Being a new person in the neighborhood, you got to fight, you got to learn people. That can be traumatic for a child, and definitely seeing your parents do drugs and being alcoholics can have an effect on you as a child because that's where some of the abuse comes in, right? So those are some things that I'm just want you all to think about as we start looking at the different forms of trauma. And then next we got so how do we address trauma, right? First thing you got to do is look at when we talk about what triggers us. Uh, or of us getting mad and going off or blacking out or crashing out about things we don't know or we don't know why it's because of trauma, and then we got to find out what are our triggers. And so the first thing we have to do is identify what the trauma is, what is triggering us. Second thing is when we talk about trauma, how do we deal with trauma? In most cases, do we deal with it in a healthy way or a non-healthy way? Um, you smoking weed is not helping you deal with your trauma. That's an unhealthy way, and it's still going to exist. I trust me. I smoked weed. I drank liquor. And my problems when I was triggered by certain traumas, when I tried to use alcohol and drugs, weed to take it off to redirect my thoughts and take that off my mind. When I woke up and I came down off my high, when I came down from being drunk, that problem was still there. So we gotta look at ways, healthy ways to deal with that. And that's, it takes us to our third thing, and that's how can we heal from trauma, right? Um, I've had to get some counseling and some therapy to address some of the issues I had. One thing that's helped me dealing with trauma is having an outlet, being involved in mixed martial arts, creating a journal, which eventually turned into a book. So I found different ways to heal and get past those things that have hurt me. And so, like I said, I just wanted to briefly kind of throw some things out there as far as what um, what my curriculum does as far as guiding people to doing things they need to do to basically address the traumas that has happened to them in life. And even as adults, sometimes we don't want to acknowledge that those traumas still exist, and they come up every now and then. So it's always a place where we gotta continuously be conscious of how we're feeling, um, even talking about those things that have hurt us or affected us in a way that that has kind of thrown our life off track somewhat. And then once we deal with those things, it helps us realign with what we need to do as individuals to get our life back on track. So I just wanted to share a session from my curriculum with you all today. Um, for more information, you can always email me at artpower.ceo@gmail.com, or you can give me a call at 678-6089-645. You can also go to my website, www.egressconsultants.com, and check out my YouTube channel, uh, Art Power Credible Messenger. So I love y'all. I hope y'all have an awesome day and an awesome new year. I look forward to seeing you all in the future. And I pray your future is good. Y'all have a great day. Peace.